Hi, I'm Josh, and this is my talk from zero to something. How networking can change your life. Also known as how Persona teaches you about time management. So a little bit about me. My name is my name is Josh, and I've been in many things since I graduated uni 3 years ago. I worked in web development, currently working in software, dabbled in marketing, writing, designing, but while doing that, I've been in games. Not like not in a traditional sense in that you work as an artist, programmer, or designer after uni in a game studio or starting your own game studio. No. Um, I've been the president of the Game Dev Club in Auckland Uni since 2019, running the Game Dev meetups in Auckland since 2020, helped organize events such as Kiwi Jam, um, Game Jam Aotearoa, and mentored at other events such as Regenerate Game Jam. So I've been in the industry in a more community capacity than an employed capacity. Other than that, I do have hobbies. I read and consume coffee, along with manga and anime, have studied dinosaurs when I was a kid, and currently dabbling with photography and videography. You really have no idea how a change of software can make you enjoy something. I learned that the hard way when I was doing my video editing using Blender, which is more of an animation software than a video editing software, to be honest. Uh, and then learned something called DaVinci Resolve a year ago. After using DaVinci Resolve, I have not looked back since. And trust me, I did not use Microsoft Paint to do my photo editing. I did use something equivalent to Photoshop. I did use something called Photopea, but I also have dabbled in Krita. But but I digress. Anyways, games. We all love games. I myself love Japanese games, particularly particularly the Japanese role-play games because of how technical they can be. From Persona's deep dive into social stats and how you level them up by interacting with other people, to The World Ends With You, where they teach you how to be fashionable and keep up with modern trends. Keep in mind, this game came out in 2007, and the way they established their system on how the trends are running, it's kind of like how social media has been used as a trendsetter for most things in other forms of media since its inception back in 2012, especially on especially on how it influences the trends of a culture on a micro level, and also tracking your calories. Although that's more the sequels part than it is the originals part. Games can teach you a lot of things. They can teach you how to vent your frustrations in a healthy communicative pattern of raging to the screen. League ranks. They can teach you how to read graphs and tables and how interacting with the wider world can increase one of your social stats. What Persona and the World Ends With You have taught me are how to be fashionable, trendy, and 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 how to find friends. So how do you get friends? Well, there's multiple avenues you can do this. You can do this by going to IRL events such as game dev meetups or other meetups, showcases or graduation nights by courtesy of the universities, conferences such as the NCGDC, or casual hangouts that came from either a mutual friend or a post on social media. The ones that these ones would be much more casual than meetup and conferences because those events tend to be more formal and businessy that people who are more curious on the culture and vibe of a particular part of the industry might feel a bit overwhelmed and by how overtly formal they are, which makes sense. Like most of you guys will really are students, are still young, so you don't really need to wear a suit too often. Don't need to be so uptight and formal about things. You can go to like a casual meetup, like in Auckland we do have something called Auckland Indies, which is the much more casual version of the meetups, where you just either go to a pub or You just go to a pub, order food, and then just have drinks with a few of your mates, or find someone that will be your mate at some point in the future. Yeah, I remember just like a lot of memories about that. One of my very first friends in the game dev industry literally came from Auckland days. He was a he was very charismatic. He was very confident about himself, and little did I know he was actually part of the media design school staff. And 3 years later, now he's working at well, he was working at Oddboy, but now he's working at another VFX company as one of their animators, but now in a much more remote capacity. If by chance you are more introverted or want to hang out in the comfort of your own home before committing to something like an IRL meetup, you have other ventures on you. Some of them would be forum chats such as Discord or Reddit, mutual friend introductions that you've had previously, casual bumps either online or IRL, and outside the main arena. I'll go to the outside the main arena part in a bit, but when I say casual bumps, I usually just mean if you've been on the Discord server long enough, you'd see people that are like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And you see this one username just constantly post about either memes of the anime they love, or just constantly engage in the server in one of the channels, and just be like, "Oh, so that's who you are." And then you just chat to each other IRL, chat to each other online to the point that you build rapport, and they like, "Oh, can we just see each other? Can we just see each other IRL?" And then, yeah, you can either meet IRL and just be surprised on like how you guys look for the first time. Yeah, you'd be surprised on how many people just use different uh, avatars use their to use as their user profile. But I feel like I'm digressing to a topic there. Going back to outside the main arena. So by this I mean when you're in a meetup or a conference, you usually just have this one massive space where you can actually see people just converging and talking to each other from one conversation to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. That you're basically in a cacophony of noise, and not just a cacophony of noise, but just in a arena of conversation and in vocal forms that you just end up becoming overwhelmed by it. And to be honest, you're not the only one. Other people will get too. Um, and then some of them will just decide to go outside of that main arena just to rest their social battery, or they might just actually be checking their um, emails and stuff. So you might be able to catch them there. One of the most meaningful talks I've ever had in and stuff like NZGDC have usually been outside the main arena, because again, you talk to a lot of people in the main arena that most of the conversation will be like, "Oh, hi, I'm this, I do this at X Studio. Can we connect at some point?" That's usually what's gonna happen. If you've ever been to something like speed dating, it's basically the same. It's the same principle. So if you're looking for something more meaningful or something more longer lasting, you go for someone like you go somewhere outside of that, somewhere where there's like a lot less competition, and just more of them slinking away and just camouflaging out. Mm, yeah, and when it comes to the main arena, would either be in the form of either a showcase space or a main conference space. And like I said, you guys get bombarded there and there and there. If you see, do you see a person that's looking a bit down, dazed, but observing the cacophony of noise, then it's a nice chance for you to approach them and say, "Hi, my name is my name is Mike," and yeah, it's a good conversation topic. Either just say, "How are you enjoying the conference?" or "What's your role in X?" well, that's a standard way of saying it, but spice up your introduction by saying, "Oh, it's a bit noisy down there, ain't it?" And after that, you're off. Now, the next question: are they the one? And trust me when I say I did not get inspired by dating because of this. So, are they the one? So, when it comes to connecting with people, you usually have three things to check: the vibe, the vibe check, the status check, the interpersonal check. So, when it comes to the vibe check, you need to check if you have similar interests with each other outside of the industry that you're on. It's not to say that having an interest in the same industry in the same interest in the industry is the bad thing, but it does get boring after a while. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. It does get boring after a while if you just keep on talking games, upon games, upon games. You can spice it up with either saying, "Oh yeah, I watched this film," or "Yeah, I've been actually watching this play recently." Like case in point, like one of the best. Recently, I've actually went to cast the musical whilst wearing a whilst wearing a hoodie, a jumper, and just baggy clothes. My God, do I look? Did I look like a freaking child? The reason why I say that is because I actually did look like a child amongst a sea of people that were wearing suits and formal clothes. My best friend, I turned to my best friend and was like, "Josh, you literally underdressed in here." I'm like, "I fucking know. I frigging know." Yeah, that's actually other thing you need to check whether or not they have the same sense of humor as you. Because if they end up being either too blunt about things or too serious about things, then it's just like, yeah, I'll talk to you in the next conference, or yeah, it'll probably be a hard time. It'll be a nice challenge to see whether or not there's something beyond the crack, yeah, beyond the armor, I guess. Because usually after meeting someone for the first time, you just get to see their front, their best selves, their best selves. It will take a while to get to know the actual person. The Japanese culture have something called tatemai and honne. Tatemai is literally the front, and then honne is the truth or their best self, their actual selves. And Japanese people tend to usually have like layers upon layers about tatemai before seeing the honne, which has been applied in Western society, but not to the same degree. Not to the same degree, but it does take a while after. It does take meeting a while after meeting the first person to see their true selves. Then after that, but that'll take heaps of casual catch ups, or heaps of catch ups and heaps of chats before you get to see some parts of themselves. Yeah, and check if you have the same philosophies and ideologies. Do With this one, it's more of an introspective question of, do you feel like you can see each other there in the same life stage 5 or so years in the future? Although in this current era, in this current climate, I'm pretty sure that's gonna change from 5 to 3, considering how fast our industry goes sometimes, or how slow it goes sometimes. It really depends on which one. It really depends on which one. But be that as it may, do check like if they do share some parts of your philosophy. Status check. Do they have style? I'll go on that on a bit, but when I mean do they have style? Do they have like good fashion taste, or good taste? Not just good fashion taste, but do they have a good music taste as well? Good music taste, good film taste. Can they make references to things that you understand as well, or can they understand your references? That's one way to look at it. Also, do they have social media? Well, I would say social media, but do they have some way to be contacted other than presumably their email or their phone? And by that, I actually do mean their actual phone number, because we live in a digital era that it's almost impossible to not see anyone to not have at least either a Facebook account, or an Instagram account, or if they're very experimental, a TikTok account. A TikTok account would be has been on the trend recently that I won't be surprised by the time 2025 hits, a lot of us will have TikTok in some way, shape, or form. I do not see it being absorbed by Facebook anytime soon. It'll be great for Zuckerberg, but I do not see that happening in any way, shape, or form at the moment. But yeah, you do need some way to contact them, to contact that person. So yeah, check if they have social media, have some form of social media. If they're an artist, they'll probably have like an art station and pics of. But yeah, interpersonal check. So this one is definitely more on, or the question: can they vibe with the people you already know? Whether that be your friends, your family, your dog. Yeah, that's like a good way to check if they can vibe with those others. Then they're good. Then they are the one. But then comes the next question. Next question to ask yourself would be asking yourself, what do they add to my network? Do they add more prospects and more connections? More prospects and more connections? Do you feel like you can trust them to be your emotional support person, to be the rock that can be there for you in those hard times, or can they be a source of inspiration, a source of hype, like the blonde boy himself, Erwin Smith, who will inspire you to face bunch of boulders against your and go against the odds to face the cruelty of this world. Yeah. Or do they actually have do they are they knowledgeable in skills that you're interested in, like art, narrative, programming, game design, what have you? What did How do they benefit from knowing me? This is more of a, because connections are definitely a two-way street. It is not a one-way street for the most part. It's definitely a two-way street. So what value can you add to them that they don't have already? So when I connect to people, it's definitely more of a, like acting as an intermediary, because I know people in the arts, coding, music, mainly in games still, but I do know some people outside, so people from the creative writing industry, some people in the film industry. I do actually connect to them as much as possible. I do have a few friends that have recently came out as VTubers, so I'm definitely dabbling to that, and definitely playing. I'm definitely not gonna make my goal for 2023 to make Hololive NZ. I would love for that to happen, but it's definitely a challenge. Yeah, and yeah, why them and not another person? This is more to do with those free checks that I showed in the previous slide. Do they vibe? Do you vibe with them, or if do you vibe with them but they don't vibe with your family or your other connections? So it will be a bit of a negative brownie point, but yeah, to be honest, like most people don't really fill up the requirements anyways. At So long as they can fill out like a good 70 to 75% of that, then I consider that to be a good connection. So by that I mean would be, if they can fill out the vibe check and most of the vibe check and most of the status check and most of the interpersonal check, then yes, I can consider that a massive win. Then yeah, it is an important skill to know if they are the one, because networking is not a passive skill. It is a very active and will only start becoming passive after you've been doing it a couple of years, maybe more, depending on how often you do network and have established a voice within said network, or so either in the form of your social media platform of choice, or yeah, by osmosis, by people just by knowing your name. It will take a while. It will take a while, but yeah, you will be meeting a lot of people, and you will at some stage ask these questions, especially once you start looking for your inner circle. More on that in a later point. But now, where do you go from here? So, what happens next would be a couple of things. Well, a few things really. After the initial introduction, you then will usually hear from, you'll either say to yourselves, "Oh yeah, see you at the next conference." If see you at the next conference, or if you actually do like them enough, or they like you enough, then the question would then become, "Oh yeah, do you want to follow up with a coffee or a second hangout?" Second hangout choice, either online or IRL, or like how usually sometimes, because especially in events like NCGDC where it is a events like NCGDC where it is a nationwide conference and people are all across New Zealand just literally come together and congregate, that you will actually just talk to each other online and through social media. The key point here is the key point here, and especially the rule of thumb, it is the rule of thumb of networking, is that if you guys hit it off nicely, it is best to follow up in some way. You don't need to talk to each other almost daily. Like be the first person you text or say hello in the morning after waking up for the day, or saying goodnight to each other every night with a nice ew emoji. I really don't mean it in that way, but do try to keep the connection fresh and known, because sometimes people are forgetful and will continue on progressing on will continue on progressing in their lives, and yeah, sometimes they'll just get really forgetful and stuff. Um, that if one of you should start probing the other just to make sure the connection is still fresh and known. And as mentioned, you will meet a lot of people, and sometimes it will be easier to just to either update them through your social media or your forum of choice, or the forum of choice that you both usually go to. It does sound cynical, but at the same time, if you do actually start talking to a lot of people, it will get harder to talk to each other, to talk to each other on DMs. That yeah, sometimes that does happen, and as long as you schedule at least one hangout every month or so, just to make sure that you guys are still okay, then yeah. This is not relationship advice, by the way. It sounds like it, but no. Maintaining the ship. Just when I said it's not relationship advice. Well, on the off chance that the person you met is also very social, sometimes sending them a meme or two would be a nice way to say, "Hey, I like you, but I know we're both busy, and so here's a meme to make you laugh," or just simple "Hello, how's it going," and then just continue on the conversation from there. It is like a nice way to just make sure that the connection is still known and still known to with both of you. Then you try to swoop in and try to get them out of the shell. um, yeah. So how do you maintain the ship? So you maintain it like in a few ways. Maintain it through your social media, through your social presence, either through social media or IRL. If you do meet each other in the IRL meetup space, then yeah, that's one way to do it. Keep in touch with contacts. Yeah, keep in touch with them either casually or more frequently. Again, this will come into the inner circle play at a later point, and yeah, asking yourself if you vibe so well, that it's pretty much natural to talk to each other more frequently, or and the third point, keeping up to date with the trends. This is more for good conversation topics to consider, cause yeah, it's more to do to make sure that you both are aware of what happens in the industry, and just to make sure that, oh yeah, They might not know this or they might not know that. Um, yeah, it's like at one point in a casual hang, you might let slip that, oh, hey, I heard this YouTuber is playing this person's game, and it's actually now seen a good boost in sales. I'd say that's nice. That's nice exposure. That not only builds good rapport for both of you, but also it's a good way of sharing knowledge. Knowledge, because again, they might not know everything about the industry, and neither do you. So, really, like a nice way to feed off each other. Like I said, it's not a one-way street. It is a two-way street, and yeah, all knowledge is good knowledge, as they always say. Anyways, to recap. So, where to find friends? Meetups, conferences, hangouts, either online or IRL. What do you do if you want to know if they're a good match? Vibe check, status check, interpersonal check. What happens after that? Maintain the ship and ask for future hangouts. I would actually give this space for more questions, but I'll actually go on to the next slide now. Creating your aura. So this is more of how to make yourself presentable. How do you want to be seen? How do you want to be seen by the people in the NGDC or that or the meetup of your choice? There are a few things that you need to consider for that. One of them would be posture, eye contact, tone of voice, and sense of style. So let's go for style. How do you find your style? So take a look at these pictures and tell me what you think. One one has a cross on it and one has a tick on it. Why? Simple. The one to the left is very trendy. Is very high fashion. But the problem with high fashion, it is very expensive. So unless you have a lot of moolah on you, it is not worth it. So the goal of finding your style is not to go to your Coco Chanel and just get the one bananas jersey, or get the entire set and just spend like tens of thousands of dollars on it. No. So the goal of finding your fashion style would be finding something that's nice, comfortable, makes you look stylish, but also very cost effective. So the one to the right is actually much more ideal, especially when you go out and make yourself, because these guys actually look really nice, but you'd be surprised, like those things like cost only about probably maybe $20, maybe not. One of them might have gone to a thrift store at some point, but yeah, it's much more cost effective. That's the point I'm trying to make. So when it comes to fashion, when it comes to finding your style, it's more of how do you want people to see you? Do you want to be seen as someone that's sociable, someone that's open, someone that's professional, or smart? The three protagonists that I've picked here from Persona, they all exude some sense of formality, some sense of openness or professionalism. Especially our boy in the center here, Akashi, who is completely borderline egotistical. borderline egotistical. Also looks very professional and very smart, and it's very charismatic in his own way. To be honest with you, not as charismatic as the guy to the right, but I digress. So there's like a few avenues you can go for when it comes to fashion. So there's streetwear, smart casual, formal. Especially for students, wearing streetwear is nice. Smart casual is like the nice in between casual and formal. And formal is obviously for formal events, like weddings, businessy meetings and stuff. So I just picked like a bunch of a bunch of characters from Persona that represents each aspect of it. Streetwear is definitely really good Streetwear is really good to be nice and to look nice and casual. A hoodie is never a bad thing, especially if you have like a nice image on it that can actually be like a good conversation topic. I know one of my favorite hoodies is actually some. It's one that actually has a bunch of characters from Story on the on its sleeves, and people just constantly comment to me like, "Oh yeah, I like this story. I like Toy Story when it came out in 2001, almost 20 years ago." Yeah, I digress. Yeah, smart casual is like the nice in between when it comes to making yourself professional, but at the same time very open and casual. So wearing something like chinos, a jumper, a sweater or a sweater or a polo shirt, and a nice pair of shoes that actually make you go a long way when it comes to smart casual, or a nice skirt as well if you're for female clothing, and then formal is it's just simple three piece suit, or really long dresses. Yeah, a really nice dress, blouse dress combo. Really nice. And you can actually do so much more to find your style. So you can go from hair to accessories to makeup. The world's your oyster when it comes to the other side of things. Most people would usually focus on the clothing, and then go to the accessories. At least from my experience. So on to posture. Look at these photos and tell me what you think. Do they look businessy? Do they look really stressed out, really closed off, almost annoyed, so focused on their own thing? That's a sign of closed posture. So closed posture is more, well, it signals to someone that you're too busy, you exude an intimidating aura, and are not wanting to be disturbed. Or in the case of Yusuke here in the bottom right, on the bottom right, you're just too stylish and you're really below my league. I kid, but yeah. Usually when you actually cross your arms and just look down your phone. That does signal to someone that you're too busy. You're too busy and just trying to shrink yourself away so that you don't want to be disturbed. When then there's like another kind of posture, which is what most people people who work in IT and stuff like usually do, which is they slouch. They slouch. They slouch. Put their hands in their pockets and just shrink away, just slightly going to the side. That's a I wouldn't say a bad posture. I wouldn't say in a really bad posture, but yeah, it does signal to someone that you are shy, reserved, and are wanting someone to initiate contact, not you initiating the contact for them. For networking, that doesn't usually happen. It's very rare, but yeah, when it comes to networking, you're usually the one initiating the contact. So if you're already exuding the fact that you're shy and nervous, half 80% of the time, people actually will either feel sorry for you or they'll just slink away and just go the other direction. Yeah. So when it comes to networking, the posture we usually go for is this: something that's more open, confident, and exudes enthusiasm. So just standing up straight body, making sure you don't slouch, chest puffed up if you're a guy. Sometimes, and just and don't cross your arms or anything. Don't put it straight either. Just make it go naturally and look. Make yourself look relaxed. Make yourself look relaxed and calm. Putting your hand on your chin used to be cool, but then COVID happened, so now it's more of just putting your hand as close to your face as possible, but without touching it. Just to show that, oh yeah, I'm interested in you, or yeah, maintain. Yeah, maintaining like a calm zen aura around you is like a nice way to say to people, yeah, I'm open to I'm open to conversation, and I'd like to approach you as well. And like to know more about yourself, um, as well. So actually, I was about to go into a interesting then a nice segue to the next topic I was gonna go, eye contact. So when you're initiating a conversation with someone, or are talking to someone in the conference, make sure you do maintain eye contact. Cause sometimes if you just look at your phone and stuff for most of the conversation, it looks like you're just distracted and just using them as noise. It, I don't mean that in a mean way, but it does it does it does make you be perceived that way. So for at least when it comes to first networking for the first time, maintaining good eye contact would be nice, and just making sure that you are actually interested. So try to keep a neutral face as much as possible. Well, try to make your eyes not squint or make seem like they're annoyed. Yeah, make seem like you're annoyed and stuff. Do actually make sure like you are actually look like you're genuinely engaged in the conversation. Constantly like constantly nodding your head, or making sure that, yeah, the the person actually feels like they're being heard, and this is actually a proper conversation. When it comes to eye contact, a good rule from university is the 60-40 rule. So 60% of the time you look at the person, then 40% of the time you look at somewhere else. It works really well, especially if you're talking in the main arena. If you're talking in the main arena, because in the main arena, the thing is that there's a lot of other conversations happening, that you might pick up some prompts from one another, and then be like, oh, that's interesting, or something, and then you can use that as a prompt to your talk, to your current conversation. It's like, oh, have you heard this, or something like that. Mm. I'm actually gonna go into uh, another segment here, which is tone of voice. I did put a air quotes bad here, because tone of voice doesn't really tone of voice doesn't really change much. Or I put bad and good in air quotes because it's difficult to learn and it's difficult to practice. I myself actually have difficulty practicing it. So, like, a few bad prompts when it comes to exuding your voice and stuff would be stuttering, saying a lot of ums, low volume, very long pauses, and I'm gonna bunch of murmurs. Yeah, that's a clear sign that you're not engaged in a conversation and just wanting the person to go away. But yeah, I'm like, I do understand like some students, especially for if you're first time at progress, like, yeah, you do have like some form of social anxiety. So like I do understand and empathize with it, but do practice to mitigate those things as much as possible, because a good tone of voice in IRL on conversations, like intermittent ums, or using different delays. So not using like, but do use other things like anyway, yeah, or anything else that can change the top, that can both not be an but also be a way to change, to progress from one side of the topic to the next. Almost no stutters. I do understand. Again, I do sympathize with people who do suffer from some form of stuttering, but yeah, just try. It's not necessarily a hard rule. It's just more of a suggestion to make sure that you don't stutter as much as possible. Good volume. This will be difficult, especially if you're like someone who has either asthma or low volume. That, yeah, just to make sure you have more energy than you really have. It is really hard for me because Half the time, especially when I listen to my own recordings, I do sound like I'm a tired adult. Because I am. I am tired. I am tired and in always dire need of sleep. Unfortunately, the universe does not allow me such luxury. And yeah, confidence in your posture. Confidence in your posture. That is the one of the best ways to show um, you are of a much more positive vibe around you, and it does give you more energy, or it does give you more of a positive energy when it comes to speaking. So yeah, so that's one way to make sure that you're open and that you can guarantee you can get to someone to talk to you during for networking. One of the few ways. Then comes the next part, which would be online. So with online, it's a bit tricky because with online messaging, sarcasm is completely lost out the window. Sometimes people get it, but it does come back to the situation of that the recipient actually having a sense of humor and actually understanding sarcasm in the first place. If you're talking to a bot, yeah, that idea is complete out. Sarcasm is completely out the window. So yeah, when it comes to online, especially if you're talking to someone or trying to make them your friend or a proper connection, don't try to make it as cold and informative as possible. Case point would be this one. Good evening. Yeah, good evening, Josh. Hope things are going well. I'm in agreement with wins to secure my trip at blank. I hope you are able to blah 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 blah. If you are overtly grammatically correct and are very formal in your tone, to most people it sounds cold. I'll be honest, it does sound cold and distant that it will put off some context away from you. It's fine if you're like talking to enterprise people, if you're talking to like enterprise people, like that's fine, or government people, like that's fine because they do actually run that ways that you can get away with it. But if you're talking to someone that you want to be your friend, then you want to go for something that's more casual. Hey man, how's it going? Sorry for the late response. I've been busy. Adding lol or lamau would actually be is more of a millennial thing, to be honest. So yeah, the second you see lol or lamau, you will definitely know the age of the person you're talking to. Yeah, just try to keep your tone casual if you want them to be your friend IRL. Do you want them to meet if you want to meet that person again in the future? Yeah, and of course, there's a much more open one. Short and simple. People are busy most of the time that keeping it nice and simple would be one way. Nice and simple would be one way to do it. So, like case in point, this one. Kia ora, Gabe. I help organize the game of community meetups in Auckland. Would you be interested in coming along to one and talk about your experiences? Thanks for your time and consideration. This is really good, especially for people that are really busy, like the Stephen Knightleys, the Chelseas, the Chelsea Raps, the V's, the Tim Pontings. Yeah, keeping it like short and simple is really good for them because then it doesn't require much energy for them to understand what you're saying. So yeah. So I talked a lot about tone of voice, posture, finding your style, building up your aura. So once you build up your aura, it'll go from your connections will go from conversations will go from this. Will go from this to this to this. So you're no longer talking from one person to two people to, oh my god, why did I do this at Valentine's Day? Why did I talk to this many people at Valentine's Day? And why is my dad staring at me that way? Oh why? My golly, I have so many connections. after you reach and talk to so many connections, things will start really getting messy and overwhelming. That you then ask, what next? Well, the next bit is the inner circle. For that, we need to look at this chart. So I'm using this chart from Persona 5 because it kind of illustrates each social aspect you want to focus on. And Persona 5 is one of the better Persona games because it emphasizes the meaning of the deadline and how practical each social link can be. With it, there are certain events and certain connections that won't get leveled up because you don't have, say, your knowledge up by 3 points or some, or and if you don't increase the closeness with this connection, you won't reap the benefits as shown with the back alley doctor after reaching a certain threshold. Like case in point, yeah. Resuscitation, rejuvenation. From there, you kind of reach a point where the game makes you want to focus managing your time to the best possible scenario. As it's not only a game that teaches you bonds with people is the true power, and also make sure you book out a day where you hone your skills, improve yourself, and know when your bonds want to actually level up with you. There are two main things to consider here: managing your time and knowing who is your inner circle. So it does become like this, to be honest with you. Managing your time in Persona 5, they don't have a calendar as complicated as this or as verbose. So for those who are having connections and getting a bit overwhelmed, you will need to have a calendar online, either by email or physically, and start filling it up with which friend you're hanging out with at which date, and time and where you're hanging out with, but also a day where you can use for whatever. Because trust me when I say self care is definitely a thing. You will need at least one day where you just have to work, or you just do your own thing. Don't get bothered by anyone. Trust me, as a fellow introvert, socializing with this many people, it gets very exhausting. How to choose your inner circle? So with the inner circle, you will need to do a bit more to be a bit more not harsher, but definitely be a bit more stricter with the vibe check, status check, and interpersonal check. As the goal of the inner circle is to create a tiny network of people that you can rely on and make you feel secured in your decision. Say you want to be a game dev, but your parents don't support you. You would need someone to be there that not only sees the talent and potential within you, but also make sure you're taking care of yourself. As the goal is not this. The goal is not this. Not to become the master of your master of the masses and stuff. That's not the real goal. The real goal is finding the people that you can hang out with in the summer and see yourself potentially growing together. Well, by that I mean growing together in the sense that you do see each other growing uh, making each other feel inspired and reach the goal that you want to reach. Yeah. So the goal is not this, but this. And to do that, you need to do a vibe check, similar vibe check, similar status check. But do ask yourself, how often do you see them? Can they vibe with others? And do they make you feel secure? So that you know that at some point down the line, you will rely on them, and they can rely on you, and become the family that you found. Any questions?